Hey there, y'all. It's Tryst. You normally catch me on Not Your Normal Discussion, but right now I'm on my channel at Tryst of Fate, and I'm wishing you another day of bliss. Happy Sabbath for my fellow Sabbath keepers, Jewish and otherwise, and for everyone else. Hope you're enjoying your Saturday. So if you didn't know, Macy Gray, she's been in the news recently, and y'all have heard me on the podcast before talk about just how many things, like, not to be policing people's language, or not that I can't take jokes or anything like that, or that I'm the biggest trans ally or anything like that. But, trans women are really out here dying. Trans rights are being taken away. Trans lives and experiences are being taken for granted. So I think it's especially, people, especially marginalized people, should be extra careful how we are with this issue, because if you think rights can be easily taken away from other people and it won't blow back on you, you haven't been paying attention to history. You haven't been seeing how all this stuff works. But enough of the ranting. Let's get into what actually Macy Gray has said. The gender surgeon. She knows everything about gender and surgery. Let's see. I haven't watched this yet, so we're going to react to it together. I might not watch the whole thing, because as much as I'll be stopping, that might be eternally long. But let's watch enough to get the gist. And we're going to skip any ads that come up, because these ads aren't on my channel. So, bye-bye.
So, Macy, let me talk to you about the furore that you were involved in last year. I found it very interesting the way the debate played out. You wrote an op-ed for Market Watch.
Yes.
You?
I didn't even know she wrote a whole... she's doing the most. Macy Gray, when is the last song you dropped? When is the last time you're relevant? There op-eds? Who is hitting Macy Gray up? This is like the Ja Rule shit. Like, who's asking for Ja Rule's opinion on this? But what op-eds? Let's hear more.
Gotcha. And when she said that the American flag no longer represents democracy and freedom, you wanted it changed. Why?
Okay. I agree with her on that. I was about to say, you already doing gender science shit? Nobody asked you before, nobody asked you now, but what's good?
Well, I just think that it's like in a general thing, it's just a new day. It's just time to, reboot the Constitution, the flag, all that.
I like her earrings.
Standards, that our ancestors lived by, were right for the time they lived in. But we're in a different time, So the flag is, so in the States, to me, what the States do best is diversity, it's culture. You know what I mean?
Guess what else is a part of diversity? Gender diversity. But, okay. I agree for the most part so far, although, America had slavery back when the flag was made. Fuck the flag back then, too. Fuck America back then, too. We have more diversity now. We got rights, but we had to fight for those rights. It's not even a minute in. Let me stop.
Our culture in America, you really don't have much going on. You have, I don't know, Amazon. What do you have if you don't have color in the States, right?
I mean, I agree with that. What I would say to you is, though, that it's such a divisive issue, things like the flag. Do you not think there's a danger? I'm interested in how you feel a year on from that debate. You got hammered, obviously, by a lot of people. A lot of Americans were outraged. Others thought you raised an interesting point. In a way, it wasn't that dissimilar to what Colin Kaepernick went through with the protests that he was doing. Some agreed with him, others were furious. Do you have any regrets about what you said about the flag?
No, in fact, I'm excited to bring it up again, because I think it's more important now. But what I want to do is more important now. It's just messaging. It's just like if you. So my idea was to make the stars.
The way it just jumped up. And what's in the stars? Is it pictures of buildings? Hold on, let me clear this joint out real quick. I mean, it just looks like someone tacked on stars. I don't see what's too much different. But if you're gonna change it up, put some black in there, put some brown in there, put some rainbows in there. But it's funny that this is what she was invited on for. Cause I'm we're not even at the trans stuff yet, but this is what she was invited on for. And she doesn't see the irony of saying we need more diversity, and America isn't really representing the values and the rights of diverse class people, marginalized people, black people. And yet even if the point of her statement wasn't to marginalize or ostracize trans women, that's kind of what they do. And it's like, you're mad about people finding what you're saying divisive and not seeing the irony in what you're saying being divisive and ignoring the experiences of a whole class of people. But I'm doing too much talking. Let's go back.
The colors of all of us. So that you saw representing you, one representing me, one representing everybody in the room, right? So that way you look up to the flag and you feel welcome.
Sorry about that.
Included. You feel like you belong there.
Why does... Okay, let me play devil's advocate.
Yeah.
Which is... I think the American flag is a fantastic flag. I love my flag here, too. The English flag, the UK flag. I love these things.
Is there no irony that we left y'all
they're
bitches?
not about making any kind of diverse point. They're just great flags. And if I was an American, most Americans I've spoken to about this, they say that there are other ways to celebrate diversity. Juneteenth is one, right?
Right.
There are other ways to do this. Why go after such a powerful emblem of the union?
One, Juneteenth is not about celebrating diversity. Juneteenth is about celebrating the true end of slavery because we didn't get our independence on Independence Day. We just did a recent episode of the podcast about that, talking about people not celebrating on 4th of July because of racial violence around the times they were free. But to throw in Juneteenth for diversity, like, no. It's about celebrating the end of fucking oppression. Like, if anything, let's throw some of them colors in the fucking American flag if you're so, oh, diversity. Listen, I don't really have beef with the flag in the sense of I want it change. I want laws change. I want policies change. I want, reparations and socialism. I want changes to people's lives. Like, the symbol of a flag, the symbol of the national anthem, those things don't matter to me. And that's another thing. Macy Gray is out here talking about symbols. Like, let's go beyond symbols. Let's go back to actual changing things that actually matter to meet people's material conditions.
United States of America, when it causes the whole debate, actually a lot of disunity.
Whenever the flag was conceptualized, they made it based on what was going on during that time, which was a war. That's another thing. We celebrate a flag that represents war.
I actually have an American flag on my office wall.
That's random. I know I'm stopping a lot. I just wanted to comment real quick. It doesn't seem like she has her feelings, but it doesn't seem like she did deeper research to actually combat whatever. Like, he's not really coming with research points either, but it doesn't seem like she's like me. If I'm gonna go be invited on a whole show, I'm gonna have some points in my head about, all right, at this time period, this is what represented the 13 colonies, this, that, and the other. All these colonies had slavery. There was the 3/5 compromise in the Constitution. We weren't even represented as full people. These things are all emblematic of our enslavement, servitude, and being thought of as less than human beings. The flag, and even more so importantly, the laws need to represent us way more than they have throughout the history of this country. That's why I don't care for what the flag looks like. That's why I don't care for this, that, and the other. This is how I would enumerate these type of things. Like, if you're going to be invited on a whole show talking about what you're saying is divisive and you are the voice to represent for the people, come ready, come prepared, and represent.
Wow.
So I think we've got a picture of it. Here we are. Look, that's my office wall in London.
Ew, that's just ugly.
Every day.
Is that the first flag? What is this?
Unique. It's 34 stars,
Yes.
which means it was actually the flag from the Civil War period when Lincoln was president, and it's the only flag that was in use during Lincoln's presidency.
Why does he have that?
And
Where did he
I
get
bought it
that
at an auction, because America's been a large part of my life. And I find it a stirring emblem. I never look at it and think, well, that's about...
Why? You wouldn't.
White power of black people.
No, you
That's
wouldn't,
attacking
'cause you're
diversity,
white.
or could be more diverse. I just think it's such a magnificent emblem. Now,
And let's not act like Britain wasn't a part of the whole transatlantic slave trade. Like, you're culpable in this as well, or at least your country. Like, don't act like, oh, I don't think. Well, if you don't think about that for your own country, why would you think about that for America, the country you're visiting and making money in, right?
I'm white, so I might think that.
Well, it's not that it's about white people. It's just that...
I'm about to skip this to get to the trans stuff because
Macy
Macy Gray ain't representing here. She has way more energy.
Design it for that day. So I'm just saying, what's wrong with the news?
I'm already 10 minutes in. I might as well skip because
where
she's not holding down the fort. I don't know where it is, but let's see.
Let go of needing to be better than everyone else. You have to let go of
No.
Once I did tell my story.
I'll play ads when I get ads on my channel.
let go of needing to be better than everyone else. You have to let go of your hang-ups about slavery. You have to let go of your hang-ups about superiority. You have to, it's very personal how you feel about other people. Like we can have a conversation about how you feel about women, And there would be so many things that
get
went
into it.
I mean, we're in an era now, basically. You can't. Most public figures are too terrified to even say what they think a woman is.
Ooh, he's good. See, that's the manipulation. Because she just brought this up as a comparison. And he was able to use that to pivot her into talking about his talking point and use her to empower his argument. And she just walked right into it because she's not coming with strong, here's my research, here's my, facts, here's my, why I'm backing up why I feel about this. She's just coming with, people are mad at me, but just stop and think for a second and, what's happened to black people, think about, with women. But, she's being pivoted, continuing that same train of thought. It could be think about what's happened to black people, what's happened to women, what's happened to the LGBT community, what's happened to trans people, trans women especially, with the marginalization, the ostracization, the laws being passed. This country is not free. She could have, if she didn't have her opinion that she had, she could have gone down a different train of thought and bring everything back together as a representation. But she's going to hurt her own argument by agreeing with him, by saying, listen, yeah, you are the enemy here. People already know what I feel. Macy Gray, you're coming out to support this? Thank you. Carry the argument for me.
I know.
I mean, if I asked you what a woman is, what would you say?
I would say a human being with boobs. How did you start there?
I guess for all the men with titties, we get honorary women's cards. I guess we could just use women's bathroom whenever we want. I guess for all the women with mastectomies and no boobs, I guess, I'm sorry, Macy Gray, the gender surgeon has excluded you from the group. You're no longer women, I guess, according to her. Let's see who else no longer counts as women, or does count as women, to Macy Gray.
Yeah, I mean, the dictionary is quite straightforward. It just says keep adult females, right?
No, a lot of people, that's a little thing. Whole piece with they, that's good.
And I'm not sure why, really. It's a bit like this whole issue of transgenders in sport. I support all trans rights to fairness and equality.
Okay, but if you support all trans rights, but you have a problem with trans women being recognized as women, and we can't even say what a woman is, which I might even do a video about this, because on the podcast that I'm on, they were pressed. Someone on there was pressed to ask this question, and I think they did a whole episode about it for the after show. About what is a woman? They're like Matt Walsh's disciple or something. And at the end of the day, there's a simple answer and there's a actual more nuanced answer, but it's not really that complicated either way. The simple answer is a woman's not a man. Just the same way as being alive is not being dead, and being dead is not being alive. But if you actually wanted to break that down, you would say, okay, there's two groups of women, just like there's two groups of men. Again, simple, because you can go into nuances of gender beyond just that. But to keep it simple, there's cis men, and then there's trans men, just like there's cis women and trans women. And all that comes down to at the end of the day is, if you were born and because of your biological sex, you were assigned female at birth, you continue to live that way and continue to identify as that as you grow up, you're a cis woman. If you were assigned male at birth because of your genitals, your biological sex, and you grow up and you come to identify as a woman, you're a trans woman. And now whether you get gender affirming either surgery or procedures, whether that's actually getting the snip transformation, or getting puberty blockers, or continuing to get hormones after the fact, or continuing to get voice coaching and training and everything like that. Those are things that help, with gender affirmation, because we live in a society that tries to erase people who are different. It's like it tried to erase bi people and just says just gay and straight and nothing else. It tries to erase trans people and says you're not really women, you're not really men, you are whatever the fuck you was born as. So you can't say you support trans rights, but then say, but they're fucking crazy, I don't believe them anyway. Like, are we going by the old fucking psychology books of like the 1980s and 1960s and shit like that? Or we're gonna like recognize, like, okay, if I'm recognizing your rights, then that means I at least have to on some level recognize your experiences, your identity, and how you identify. But let's go back into this.
Me too.
But not where you have people born to obvious physical superior bodies.
Me too.
Transitioning and then thrashing the women. That's cool.
I totally agree. And
Again, this is the same logic. I get where people just naturally come from with the whole transports thing, but at the same time too, you're not gonna, like, no one, what is the regulation for like hormones and for muscle mass? Like, they come with the same arguments for black athletes in so many categories in the Olympics. Like, they made the same arguments for black, not even black trans, but black cis runners from Africa, saying, oh, their muscle mass, their muscle fibers, their hormones, all this is so much higher than white athletes, so they should be banned. And in some cases they were banned. Or saying that, when Serena Williams was pregnant, all these hormones she had, enabled her to be better in the sport. Or also that her muscle mass is just too much. Like, we should, like, basically, like, it's not fair. And it's like, unless you want, unless you're going to start doing, like, boxing and creating weight classes where everyone must be of a certain weight for every sport, at some point, give it a rest. Like, unless you're going to create a whole different league or combine the men's and women's league so that things are equalized across that way, give it a rest. Stop complaining about it. Like, especially if you're not in the sport yourself. Like, what are you complaining about?
I will say this, and everybody's gonna hate me, but as a woman, just because you go change your parts doesn't make you a woman.
Right.
Sorry.
You feel that?
I know that for a fact. Like, if you want me to call you a her, I will, because that's what you want. But that doesn't make you a woman just because I call you a her, and just because you got a surgery.
Because people do feel.
That's honestly how a lot of people feel, but that's honestly, it's dangerous because, again, how are you going to ever educate yourself if you're like, alright, you want to call yourself that, I guess I'll call you that to be politically correct, but I don't believe you fucking are that. Like, so you're humoring me, but you don't really believe me. And then that's how you get situations where you get people more going along with, like, don't say gay bills and everything like that, and not wanting to teach sexual and gender diversity in schools and everything like that, because even their parents don't even believe that shit, even if they're like, I'll call you this, I'll call you that. And the result of that is over 100 bills, 300 bills this year, more than over 300 bills this year that, like, are anti-LGBT, with a lot of trans ones leading the way and being that thing that opens the door to get the other stuff in. And then Roe versus Wade, we're talking about women's rights. You don't have something like Roe versus Wade being passed or being overturned without, like, this earlier discussion on what is a woman, what is not a woman, and what should women basically be able to do with their bodies. It doesn't happen in a vacuum. And again, all of this is to further benefit the race science type of people who want to basically follow the path of Nazis and eugenicists and continue to further restrict how we classify certain things. And black people, I know we're raised in a certain conservative type of mindset. If not for the whole slavery and anti-blackness avenue, a lot of us would probably be fucking conservatives at the end of the day, because we're socially, like, our social politics are basically conservative. But you have to realize that even if you grew up on some, like, oh, certain things are weird, or certain things don't make sense to you, that's not normal. There was a time where you walking around black and free was not normal. there was a certain time where you like getting married, you getting to marry someone of another race, you getting to own property, you getting to have a vote, you getting to live in certain neighborhoods, you getting to associate with certain people of other race. All that shit wasn't normal either. So like, at some point, y'all gotta get over this whole "this shit is weird, this shit is not normal" shit, because it's gonna be used to further racist ass agendas, and you'll be just like Macy Gray on one hand, trying to get people to realize, hey, respect black people. We've gone through a lot. Things need to change because we're not being respected. While at the same hand, disrespecting another marginalized group, and that disrespect is being used to restrict rights for both them and you. So, I mean, I've seen how we got to that point. I would watch the rest of the video, but this video is already over 20 minutes. I know y'all don't be watching shit that long anyway. So, I'm going to end this video here. Subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed the product. And I'm trying to make more. So, subscribe to Normal Discussions, subscribe to the Tryst of Fate, and be on the lookout for more from me. Alright, enjoy your Saturday.